Man who observes the world without rushing to participate in its noise. He is not withdrawn out of fear, and he is not distant out of arrogance. His distance is intentional, purposeful, and grounded in a deep understanding of himself. This man, the Sigma male, carries an energy that most people cannot easily categorize. And it is this lack of categorization that unsettles them. People understand loud men, they understand dominant men, they even understand submissive men. But the Sigma is none of these and all of them, depending on when he decides to be. He is a master of presence, not through performance, but through authenticity. His quietness is not a retreat, it is a form of strength. His self-sufficiency is not a defense mechanism, it is a lifestyle. And his lack of interest in social validation is not rebellion, it is clarity. The Sigma male is dangerous because he is internally aligned. His power does not come from dominance, it comes from detachment. He can be in the world without being owned by it. He can walk among people without absorbing their fears. And he can forge his path without relying on applause. Most men require guidance, approval, or a sense of belonging to function with confidence. But the Sigma's confidence is generated internally. Time alone does not weaken him, it strengthens him. Silence does not intimidate him, it clarifies him. Failure does not break him, it instructs him. This kind of man disrupts social expectations simply by existing outside of them. People who rely on hierarchy, control, or emotional manipulation feel exposed in his presence. They cannot predict him. They cannot influence him. They cannot contain him. And this is what makes him quietly dangerous, not in the sense of harm, but in the sense of unpredictability, independence, and an unwavering sense of self. His path is not defined by comparison. His goals are not shaped by competition. His worth is not tied to validation. When society encourages conformity, the Sigma chooses individuality. When others seek attention, he seeks depth. When the world demands noise, he responds with silence. This silence, calm, grounded, and immovable, is the first sign of a man who has mastered himself. And the further we look, the more we begin to see why the Sigma male possesses traits that are, to some, deeply intimidating. Let us explore these traits one by one. Point 1, his emotional independence. One of the most unsettling aspects of the Sigma male is his emotional independence. Most people operate with emotional dependencies. They rely on attention, approval, or connection to feel centered. But the Sigma does not look to others to stabilize his emotions. Instead, he has developed an internal foundation solid enough to withstand external turbulence. His emotional world is not a public arena open for negotiation. It is a private landscape governed only by his own values. This independence makes him immune to the common psychological tactics often used in social environments. Guilt, pressure, passive aggression, and manipulation. These strategies fail when used against a man who does not attach his self-worth to external judgment. He does not crumble under criticism. He does not inflate under praise. He remains steady, balanced, and grounded. This balance allows him to maintain clarity in situations where others lose their footing. He can respond without reacting. He can observe without absorbing. He can engage without becoming entangled. Research on emotional intelligence suggests that individuals who maintain strong boundaries and possess emotional autonomy experience less anxiety, less burnout, and higher life satisfaction. The Sigma, knowingly or not, embodies this. His emotional independence is not coldness, it is maturity. He feels deeply but responsibly. He cares, but selectively. He loves, but without losing himself. And this ability to remain whole regardless of external conditions is a rare form of masculine power. It makes those who seek control uneasy, because the Sigma male cannot be destabilized emotionally. And when a man cannot be emotionally manipulated, he becomes difficult to predict, difficult to influence, and difficult to overpower. Point 2, his observational precision. While others fill silence with noise, the Sigma fills silence with awareness. He does not rush to speak, he listens. He does not seek to be seen, he watches. This observational precision allows him to gather information that most people overlook. Tone shifts, micro-expressions, body language patterns, inconsistencies. He sees them all without effort. His mind works like a slow, deliberate camera, capturing details that others miss because they are too busy performing socially to observe clearly. This trait can be deeply unsettling. People are used to being half understood, not fully seen. People expect their subtle manipulations, their hidden motives, and their emotional disguises to blend into the social fabric. But the Sigma's attention cuts through these layers. And what makes him dangerous is not that he exposes people. It is that he understands them quietly. He collects patterns. He analyzes behavior. He forms conclusions without announcing them. Psychological studies highlight that individuals with high observational skills often have strong situational awareness, which gives them an advantage in predicting human behavior. The Sigma male naturally uses this to navigate social situations without needing guidance. He is not suspicious. He is aware. He is not paranoid. He is perceptive. And this perception disarms those who rely on deception or confusion to maintain control. They sense that he sees more than he reveals, and this awareness creates a quiet psychological pressure around him. You cannot manipulate someone who sees the structure of your intentions. You cannot deceive someone who recognizes your patterns, and you cannot dominate someone who understands you more clearly than you understand yourself. Point 3, his ability to walk away without fear. In a world where people cling to relationships, to groups, to comfort, to identity, the Sigma male's ability to walk away is profoundly unsettling. Most individuals tolerate emotional discomfort, disrespect, or unfulfilling environments out of fear of being alone or losing security. But the Sigma male does not operate from scarcity. He does not stay in situations that drain him. He does not negotiate with toxicity. He does not compromise his values for temporary belonging. If a situation threatens his peace or integrity, he leaves, quietly, calmly, completely. This ability is not rooted in coldness, it is rooted in self-respect. When a man does not fear solitude, he cannot be coerced. When he does not rely on external validation, he cannot be manipulated. When he does not require a group to feel whole, he cannot be socially cornered. And this independence becomes a mirror that exposes the dependency of others. People who rely on emotional control suddenly find their influence dissolving. They realize the Sigma cannot be guilt-tripped, shamed, or pressured back into conformity. This is what makes his detachment terrifying to those to maintain control. They feel powerless when the Sigma does not react, does not chase, and does not cling. His walking away is not an exit. It is a declaration of boundaries, a statement that says, my peace is worth more than your approval. In psychology, individuals who are able to disengage from unhealthy environments demonstrate higher resilience, stronger emotional regulation, and deeper decision-making clarity. The Sigma intuitively aligns with these principles. His willingness to leave situations that others tolerate shows a profound understanding of self-preservation. And when a man cannot be held by fear, he becomes difficult to contain, influence, or pressure. This is a form of masculine freedom most people are not accustomed to, and it is precisely why the Sigma's detachment feels so dangerous to those who benefit from attachment. Point 4, his deep self-discipline. The Sigma male does not announce his progress. He does not document his growth publicly, nor does he look for applause. His discipline is internal, consistent, and quiet. While others seek motivation, the Sigma builds habits. While others wait for inspiration, he takes small, steady steps. While others seek accountability partners, he becomes accountable to himself. This deep self-discipline is one of the most powerful traits a man can possess, and it is one of the most misunderstood. People often mistake the Sigma's quiet routine for laziness or passivity. They assume silence means inactivity, when in truth, silence often means transformation. Behind the scenes, he is sharpening his mind, strengthening his body, developing his skills, and expanding his knowledge. He is always improving, even if no one is watching, even if no one ever praises him for it. He understands something most people never discover. Real growth happens in private, not in performance. Psychology calls this intrinsic motivation, the drive to act for personal meaning rather than external reward. Research shows that people who cultivate inner direction rather than seeking validation achieve deeper mastery and more lasting results. The Sigma embodies this principle effortlessly. His improvement is not performative. It is personal. He's not trying to impress. He's trying to evolve. And because his evolution is rooted in intention rather than applause, it becomes sustainable. Day after day, his small, disciplined actions create a quiet, powerful momentum that builds beneath the surface. This momentum becomes a kind of masculine gravity, subtle at first, then undeniable. Others may not see the work, but they eventually feel the results. They sense his confidence, his steadiness, and the clarity in his decisions. They recognize that he moves differently, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with his inner world. This unsettles people because they cannot track his growth, cannot predict his moves, and cannot compete with a man who is fueled from within. A Sigma who works silently is dangerous in the most grounded, stable way. His progress is not loud, but it is inevitable. His discipline makes him resilient, adaptable, and capable of handling pressure with a calm strength that cannot be faked. The Sigma does not announce his steps. He simply takes them, and by the time the world notices, he has already become the man they never saw coming. Point 5, his resistance to social hierarchies. Most people unconsciously accept social hierarchies. The need to fit in, to be ranked, to find a place within a group, and to earn belonging. But the Sigma male moves differently. He does not participate in these structures because he does not derive his identity from them. He does not see himself above or below anyone. He simply steps outside the ladder altogether. And this quiet refusal to play the game is exactly what unsettles people. Society expects men to behave in predictable ways, to compete for dominance, to chase approval, or to submit to authority when instructed. But the Sigma does neither. He follows a path based on inner alignment rather than external validation. This independence removes society's primary tool of control, comparison. Most people are guided, often unconsciously, by constant measurement. How successful am I compared to him? Am I attractive enough, wealthy enough, and respected enough? The Sigma rejects this entire framework. He does not compare his success to others because he views success as an internal metric. He does not adopt social labels to shape his identity because he knows labels limit more than they define. He does not follow trends, expectations, or unspoken cultural rules unless they naturally align with his own principles. This level of internal authority is rare, and rarity is unsettling. It makes him unpredictable in a world built on predictable roles. When a man cannot be categorized, he becomes difficult to control. When he cannot be socially motivated, he becomes difficult to recruit into group agendas. When he cannot be measured by external standards, he becomes nearly impossible to manipulate. Psychology recognizes that individuals with low social conformity tend to have stronger critical thinking skills, higher self-direction, and a more stable sense of autonomy. The Sigma embodies this principle vividly. He respects others deeply, but he does not depend on them to define him. His masculinity is rooted in self-knowledge, not social comparison. And because he has stepped off the social ladder entirely, he threatens those who depend on the ladder for their own sense of importance. People who rely on hierarchy need others to play along in order to maintain power. So when the Sigma quietly refuses to engage, the structure trembles. His mere presence disrupts the system, not because he rebels loudly, but because he stands apart so completely. In that stillness, he reveals the truth. Real power is internal and cannot be granted or taken away by society. Point 6, his calm under pressure. Perhaps the most quietly dangerous trait of the Sigma male is his calmness under pressure. While others panic, he breathes. While others react impulsively, he analyzes. While others are overwhelmed by emotion, he finds stillness. His calmness is not the result of emotional suppression. It is the product of emotional mastery. He understands that panic solves nothing. He understands that clarity is only possible in a grounded state. And he understands that pressure reveals a man's true nature. This calm is not an accident of personality. It is a cultivated discipline, a psychological resilience formed through solitude, introspection, and countless private battles no one ever sees. He has learned over time that emotions are signals, not commands. Because of this, he does not allow fear, anger, or urgency to hijack his thinking. His mind stays spacious, even when the world around him feels tight. Psychological studies show that individuals who maintain calmness in high-stress situations are more effective decision makers and display stronger leadership qualities. The Sigma naturally aligns with this profile, not because he seeks leadership, but because inner steadiness naturally places him in a position of influence. People instinctively look toward the one who is not shaken. His calm becomes a stabilizing force, not only for himself, but for those around him. People sense this grounding energy, and it shifts the atmosphere. His presence becomes a form of quiet authority, a type of masculine strength that does not need to announce itself. He does not raise his voice, he does not posture. He simply remains centered, and that centeredness becomes its own kind of dominance. Those who rely on chaos, emotional volatility, or intimidation find themselves disarmed by his steady demeanor. You cannot intimidate a man who does not fear the situation. You cannot pressure a man who does not crumble. You cannot dominate a man who remains composed when everything else loses balance. This composure disrupts the power dynamics others try to impose, because it exposes their instability. It forces them to confront the truth. Control belongs to the one who controls himself. This level of internal stillness is powerful, rare, and deeply unsettling for those who have never cultivated it. It is not aggression that makes the Sigma dangerous. It is peace. A peace that is earned, not gifted. A peace that is rooted, not shaken. A peace that cannot be stolen or manipulated. A peace that remains intact even in the presence of conflict. And in a chaotic world, the man who stays calm becomes the man everyone secretly fears and quietly respects. At the end of the day, the Sigma male is not dangerous because he seeks power over others, but because he has achieved power over himself. His strength is not loud and his confidence is not performative. His danger is not a threat. It is a presence shaped by discipline, clarity, independence, and a calm mind that does not bend under pressure. These traits are rare in a world that encourages impulsiveness, emotional dependence, and constant performance. And because they are rare, people respond to them with uncertainty, curiosity, or even fear. But the truth is simple. A Sigma male is only dangerous to those who build their influence on instability, manipulation, or control. To the man who seeks growth, inner peace, and authenticity, the Sigma is not a threat. He is a blueprint, a reminder that strength without noise is still strength. That solitude without loneliness is still fullness. And that masculinity without aggression is still power. If you resonate with these traits, even in small ways, remember this: you are not meant to fit into the world's expectations. You are meant to rise quietly above them. Keep refining yourself. Keep choosing depth over attention, calm over chaos, and purpose over performance. And above all, remain rooted in your own inner landscape, because that is where real, unshakable power begins. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay grounded, stay disciplined, and stay true to the man you are becoming. There is a quiet kind of intelligence that is rarely spoken about. An intelligence that does not rely on loudness, academic credentials, or the need to impress. It belongs to a man who walks a path few understand, a man whose presence is subtle, yet unmistakably different. A man who doesn't demand attention, but naturally shifts the atmosphere simply by being himself. This man is the Sigma male, not because of a title, but because of the way he moves through the world, intentionally, silently, and with an internal clarity that most people rarely achieve. You may have seen him before. He's the man who sits alone, not because he is lonely, but because solitude feels like his natural habitat. He's the man who rarely reacts instantly, because he prefers to think, to observe, and to see the entire landscape before choosing a single step. He's the man whose intelligence does not shout, but speaks in the quiet precision of his actions. Many misinterpret this silence. Some believe he is aloof, others assume he is arrogant, and some think he simply doesn't care. But these assumptions only reflect how deeply society has grown accustomed to noise, speed, and impulsivity. The Sigma male does not operate on such frequencies. Instead, he thinks with a depth that is almost invisible to the untrained eye. This depth is not theatrical. It is not dramatic. It is not meant to draw attention. It is simply how his mind naturally processes the world. Modern psychology has given us language for this: deep processing cognition, high-level introspective intelligence, advanced pattern recognition, non-reactive decision-making, and intuitive compression of information. But the Sigma male lived these truths long before they were named. Today we will explore the hidden cognitive traits that define this rare kind of man, traits that quietly shape how he sees, interprets, and moves through life. These traits do not look like traditional measures of intelligence. They are not measured on tests. They do not earn applause. Instead, they operate silently, constantly, beneath the surface, guiding him with a level of insight that most people never access. And as we go through these 6 points, slowly, calmly, and thoughtfully, you will begin to understand why Sigma males often appear wiser, clearer, and more mentally composed than the average man. So settle in. Let your mind become still. Let the narrative unfold like a slow-moving river. Because the intelligence of a Sigma male is not found in what he shows, but in everything he quietly knows. Point 1, the Sigma male has deep processing intelligence. The first hidden IQ trait of a Sigma male is something psychologists call deep processing intelligence. This is not the kind of thinking that happens in quick, impulsive bursts. It is not the mind that jumps to conclusions, rushes to respond, or participates in the frantic pace of everyday conversation. Instead, the Sigma male thinks slowly, intentionally, and with a kind of inward patience that is rare. When information enters his mind, it does not land lightly. It sinks. He lets ideas settle. He allows thoughts to unfold. He gives concepts the space to reveal their deeper layers. While most people operate on the surface level of information, the Sigma instinctively dives toward the foundation beneath it. He sees not just what is presented, but what supports it, what surrounds it, and what it truly implies. This deep processing intelligence becomes a quiet internal filter through which everything is examined. A Sigma male may listen to a simple statement, but what he hears is the structure behind the statement, the emotion, the intent, the pattern, the hidden logic, or the contradiction. He notices the pause before someone speaks, the shift in tone when they respond, and the subtle inconsistencies they hope no one will catch. He does not analyze to expose others. He analyzes because his mind refuses to settle for half-truths. Deep thinking for him is not an effort, it is his natural resting state. This style of cognition allows him to detect inconsistencies long before they become visible to the average person. It allows him to understand people's motivations with surprising clarity. It allows him to anticipate outcomes long before others even realize a direction has been set. His mind moves like a quiet river, steady, continuous, and deliberate, slow but never stagnant, patient but never passive. Because he thinks at this depth, he rarely feels confused, rushed, or overwhelmed. His inner world is organized, structured, and calm. He is not easily manipulated because he notices the subtle details that reveal truth. He is not easily pressured because he understands the long-term consequences of haste. And he does not make emotionally charged mistakes because he has already observed the situation from every necessary angle. The Sigma male does not chase understanding. He invites it, and in that quiet invitation, clarity always arrives. Point 2, he learns by watching, not competing. The second hidden IQ trait of a Sigma male is his ability to learn through observation. Most people learn by participating, performing, or competing. They feel the need to test themselves constantly in public spaces, to prove something to the world or to themselves. The Sigma male does the opposite. He learns best when he is not the center of attention. He learns by watching others, by noticing details that most overlook, and by studying patterns quietly and without interruption. Psychologists refer to this as latent learning, the process of absorbing information without immediate reinforcement, reward, or recognition. For a Sigma male, silence becomes a classroom. Crowds become case studies. Human behavior turns into a stream of subtle clues waiting to be deciphered. He pays attention to how people interact, how emotions shift in real time, and how power dynamics unfold beneath the surface. Because he is not entangled in these interactions, he sees them with extraordinary clarity. He has no ego investment in the outcomes, no emotional pressure clouding his perception. This observational intelligence grants him a rare advantage. He does not need to experience every mistake personally. He learns by watching others make them. He learns by recognizing what works, what fails, and why. He learns by witnessing consequences unfold from a safe, detached distance. Over time, this creates an internal library of human behavior, an archive of patterns, outcomes, and unspoken rules. By the time a Sigma male chooses to engage in something, whether it is a relationship, a career move, a negotiation, or any social dynamic, he already holds a quiet map of what is likely to happen. While others jump in blindly and learn through trial and error, he enters with foresight. He begins where others struggle. He adapts where others react. He understands what others ignore, and because of this, his decisions often appear almost effortless, as if guided by intuition or luck. But there is nothing accidental about it. The effort was simply invisible, accumulated through years of silent study, practiced restraint, and a mind trained to understand the world without needing to touch every flame to know its heat. Point 3. He possesses high social pattern recognition. The third hidden IQ trait of the Sigma male is his uncanny ability to detect patterns in human behavior. Most people move through social environments with emotional fog clouding their judgment. They hear words, but they do not see intentions. They witness actions, but they do not understand motives. The Sigma male operates differently. He observes micro-expressions, those tiny fleeting movements in someone's face that reveal they feel before they can hide it. He notices tonal shifts, the quiet tremor in a voice that signals uncertainty, the softened cadence that hides guilt, and the abrupt sharpness that betrays irritation. Even when others believe they are perfectly composed, the Sigma perceives the cracks in their presentation. He pays attention to inconsistencies, when someone's statements fail to align with their posture, when enthusiasm sounds forced, when apologies lack genuine remorse. To him, these are not random details. They form a psychological pattern that reveals the truth beneath the surface. This pattern recognition is not paranoia, it is clarity. Because the Sigma male requires nothing from others, not validation, not approval, not acceptance. His perception is not distorted by emotional need. He approaches conversations with neutrality, observing without projecting. This allows him to see people as they are, not as he hopes or fears them to be. His emotional independence sharpens his vision, giving him access to truths that others overlook. This ability allows him to detect dishonesty early, often before a lie is even spoken. It allows him to sense manipulation long before the trap closes, recognizing the slightest behavioral cues that others dismiss as coincidence. And just as importantly, it enables him to identify genuine individuals in a world where so many perform, pretend, or mask their intentions. Social pattern recognition is one of the Sigma's greatest strengths. It protects him from emotional entanglement. It guides him toward meaningful connections, and it allows him to navigate human environments with a quiet, precise intelligence that most people struggle to develop. Psychologically, this form of perception is tied to high cognitive empathy, the ability to understand others without absorbing their emotional turbulence. He sees the truth, but he does not get lost in it. Point 4. His intuition is a form of compressed intelligence. The fourth hidden IQ trait of a Sigma male is his extraordinary intuition, but not the mystical or magical kind people often imagine. Sigma intuition is a psychological byproduct of thousands of hours spent silently observing, reflecting, and analyzing the world with a level of focus few others maintain. When a Sigma male walks into a room, he is not merely seeing, he is absorbing. He is noticing micro-expressions, shifts in tone, inconsistencies in behavior, and subtle patterns most people overlook. Over time, this constant, quiet intake of information trains the brain to connect dots automatically. What looks like instinct is actually accumulated intelligence moving at lightning speed beneath conscious awareness. This is why Sigma males make swift decisions, not out of impulse, but because their unconscious mind has already run the calculations. Their intuition becomes a compressed file of years' worth of knowledge, stored efficiently and retrieved instantly. And this is also why Sigma males often sense when something is off, long before anyone else does. They notice the energy change in a conversation, the unspoken tension in a group, and the hidden motive behind someone's behavior. They can predict outcomes with startling accuracy, not because they are clairvoyant, but because they have internalized the patterns of human nature so deeply that prediction becomes second nature. Their intuition guides them toward the right opportunities and away from destructive paths, even when they cannot immediately explain why. The mind has already done the heavy lifting, quietly, logically, and without the need for external confirmation. This form of intelligence gives the Sigma male a subtle but undeniable edge. He does not require long debates, group consensus, or repeated validation. His inner compass speaks softly, yet with precision. It is steady, reliable, and rooted in a lifetime of silent mastery. And more often than not, when he trusts that intuitive pull, he discovers that it was leading him exactly where he needed to go. Point 5. He processes emotion logically, not impulsively. The fifth hidden IQ trait is emotional regulation, a hallmark of high intelligence that most people underestimate. Many men react before they think. They speak before they understand. They allow anger, fear, insecurity, or excitement to pull them into decisions that do not reflect their true intentions. The Sigma male is different. His solitude has trained him to sit with his emotions rather than be driven by them. He does not suppress what he feels, he studies it. He asks himself where the feeling comes from, what memory it connects to, what insecurity it touches, and what outcome it might influence. In doing so, he creates a psychological buffer between the emotion and the reaction, a space that allows logic to step forward before impulse takes control. Emotion becomes information, not instruction. This inner space is what allows him to navigate moments that overwhelm the average person. Pressure does not affect him the way it affects others. Conflict does not destabilize him. When tension rises, his mind becomes even clearer, because he understands that reacting impulsively only gives power away. His calmness is not a lack of feeling, it is mastery over feeling. Emotional restraint is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the ability to acknowledge emotion without being engulfed by it, the ability to understand internal storms without letting them distort judgment. Psychology links this ability to high emotional intelligence and strong prefrontal cortex regulation, the mark of mature, grounded, strategic thinking. And this is why Sigma males often appear calm in chaos. Others mistake this for detachment, but it is discipline. It is the result of years of self-observation, introspection, and the refusal to outsource emotional control to outside forces. Emotional discipline is a form of high-level cognition, quiet, invisible, and profoundly rare. Few men master it the way the Sigma male does, and this mastery becomes one of his greatest sources of influence, resilience, and inner power. Point 6. He thinks in systems, not moments. The sixth and final hidden IQ trait of the Sigma male is systems thinking, an advanced cognitive ability that allows him to understand the world as interconnected layers rather than isolated events. While most people focus solely on what is happening in the moment, the Sigma naturally perceives life as a series of unfolding patterns. He sees how one decision quietly shapes the next, how behavior leaves echoes, and how environments subtly influence outcomes. Instead of viewing life as a collection of separate experiences, he recognizes that everything is part of a larger, moving structure. He sees the chain, not the link. This ability allows him to move through the world with a kind of calm foresight. Where others react, he reflects. Where others rush to respond emotionally, he pauses to observe the deeper mechanics at play. Systems thinking gives the Sigma an unusual advantage. He can anticipate long-term consequences, while people around him remain absorbed in short-term impulses. This is why he excels quietly in business, in relationships, and in personal evolution. He's not simply reacting to life. He is studying it as a dynamic system with rules, patterns, and leverage points. This mental structure also shapes his temperament. He does not panic because he understands the process. He does not force timing because he trusts sequence. He knows that every system has a rhythm, and every outcome rests on the invisible architecture that precedes it. And when he chooses to act, his actions are rarely impulsive. They are placed with intention, like stones arranged to redirect the flow of a river. His influence extends outward, not because he demands attention, but because his choices create consistent, predictable ripples. This is why the Sigma male often appears wise without speaking, strategic without announcing, and prepared without appearing to plan. His intelligence is not flamboyant. It is foundational. It lives beneath the surface, embedded in the way he notices, interprets, and connects the subtle forces that shape reality. His brilliance is not visible. It is structural, and because of that, it is profoundly powerful. And so as we bring this journey to a close, remember this. The intelligence of a Sigma male is not something he performs. It is something he embodies. It does not demand recognition, and it does not seek applause. It lives quietly within him, guiding every step he takes, every choice he makes, and every moment of clarity he experiences. His mind does not move with the world. It moves beneath it, above it, and beyond it, following a rhythm that only he can hear. If you recognize these traits within yourself, understand that they are not flaws or eccentricities. They are strengths, subtle, powerful, enduring strengths that will shape your path in ways others may never notice, yet always feel. You do not need to explain who you are. You do not need to justify your silence or your distance or your depth. The Sigma male's intelligence is not meant to be obvious. It is meant to be true. As you move forward, carry this understanding with you. Let your mind remain your sanctuary. Let your solitude remain your teacher. And let your quiet intelligence continue to unfold at its own steady pace. You are not here to compete. You are here to evolve. Slowly, silently, authentically. Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay grounded, stay aware, and remain true to the man you are becoming. There is a particular kind of man who moves through life quietly, yet unmistakably. A man who does not demand attention, but unintentionally draws it. He is present without being loud, confident without boasting, and grounded without needing external validation. These men rarely fit into the traditional social structures or expectations that most people live by. Instead, they move with intention, independence, and clarity. And because of this, others sometimes feel the need to shape them, influence them, or subtly guide them into being more predictable, more manageable, more controllable. But the Sigma male does not bend easily. His life is built on internal reference points rather than external pressure. He knows who he is when the world is silent, when no one is watching, and when there is no applause to chase. His identity is not borrowed. It is built. And anything built from the inside out cannot be easily swayed from the outside in. When people try to control him, something interesting happens. Not dramatic, not explosive, but deeply telling. People expect the Sigma to react the same way others do, to comply, to avoid conflict, or to quietly adapt, to keep the peace. Instead, the Sigma male responds with a calm withdrawal, a thoughtful silence, a sudden shift in his distance, his priorities, or his presence. It's not revenge, not punishment, not rebellion. It's simply alignment. The Sigma moves away from anything that pulls him out of authenticity. In a world full of noise, he protects his inner stillness. In a world full of influence, he protects his sovereignty. And in a world full of expectations, he protects his freedom. This is why attempts to control a Sigma male always have the opposite effect. Instead of bringing him closer, they push him away. Instead of gaining power over him, people lose connection with him. Instead of shaping him, they reveal themselves. Today we're going to break down what actually happens when people try to control a Sigma male, not in a dramatic or confrontational way, but in the calm, steady reality that defines his nature. These quiet shifts reveal truths about his character, his boundaries, and his inner strength. Let's begin. Number 1, he becomes silent instead of reactive. When others try to pressure or override him, the Sigma does not respond with noise, arguments, or dramatic resistance. Instead, something far more unsettling happens. He becomes quiet. This silence is not a retreat, and it is certainly not weakness. It is a psychological posture rooted in clarity, self-possession, and emotional discipline. In behavioral psychology, this is known as a low reactivity response, a trait closely associated with individuals who operate from an internal locus of control. Rather than allowing external chaos to provoke him, the Sigma male processes information inwardly. He listens without rushing to defend himself, observes without revealing his thoughts, and evaluates the situation with a level of emotional neutrality that many people find disarming. Controlling personalities expect conflict. They are used to reactions, protests, or even emotional outbursts. But the Sigma gives them none of that. His calmness becomes a mirror, reflecting the other person's insecurity, impatience, or need for dominance. This is why silence becomes one of his most powerful tools. Researchers in interpersonal communication highlight that silence can signal confidence when paired with steady nonverbal cues. Slow breathing, grounded posture, and measured eye contact, all of which the Sigma naturally maintains. It communicates without words that he is not threatened, not impressed, and not manipulable. And because he is someone who values autonomy above all else, he uses silence as a way to determine another person's true intentions. Do they respect boundaries? Do they grow uncomfortable when they cannot control the narrative? Do they become aggressive when their influence fails? By remaining quiet, he gains the clarity to answer these questions with precision. Meanwhile, the controlling person begins to feel off balance. Humans are psychologically wired to become uneasy when expected patterns break. When they anticipate resistance, but receive stillness instead, their mind scrambles to fill the silence, sometimes with guilt, sometimes with frustration, and often with self-doubt. That is the Sigma's silent strength, his refusal to play the emotional tug-of-war. And because he is not fueled by ego or the need to prove himself, he walks away from manipulation with ease. His silence functions like a boundary drawn in the sand, firm yet peaceful. It teaches others how to treat him without a single raised voice, without confrontation, and without emotional drama. In a world that glorifies noise, reaction, and dominance, the Sigma's quiet becomes his signature form of power, thoughtful, controlled, and impossible to manipulate. Number 2, he withdraws his presence gradually. Control causes the Sigma to distance himself, not dramatically but steadily, in a way that feels almost invisible at first. When a Sigma senses that someone is trying to influence his thoughts, decisions, routines, or identity, he instinctively begins to pull back. This response isn't meant to punish or manipulate. It is a protective mechanism deeply rooted in autonomy psychology and self-determination theory, both of which explain that individuals who thrive on independence will retreat when they feel their freedom is threatened. A Sigma male operates from an internal locus of control, meaning he believes his life direction should come from within, not from external demands or expectations. So when control enters the dynamic, he begins to conserve his energy. He stops sharing personal details, because vulnerability is something he offers selectively, not freely. Psychologically, we share the most with people who make us feel safe, respected, and unpressured. The moment Sigma men feel someone is prying or subtly steering their choices, they instinctively reduce the flow of personal information to protect their inner world. This withdrawal also shows up in how he stops initiating plans. Social psychologists refer to this as boundary-based distancing, a natural human response to environments that feel restrictive. The Sigma doesn't storm out, argue, or create drama. Instead, he lets silence do the talking. He slowly removes himself from situations where his independence feels compromised. This isn't avoidance, it is self-preservation. Research on introverted dominance traits shows that individuals who rely heavily on introspection and personal autonomy are more likely to step away than confront, because confrontation often feels like another attempt to pull them into someone else's emotional orbit. That's something the Sigma refuses to entertain. His emotional and mental energy also becomes more guarded. When someone tries to control him, he instinctively redirects his attention inward toward things he can shape and influence, his projects, his goals, and his self-improvement routines. He withdraws not to create confusion, but to regain equilibrium. For Sigma men, emotional investment must be reciprocal, not dictated. They engage deeply only when they feel respected for who they authentically are. When control enters the dynamic, the Sigma's mind begins to evaluate, am I still myself here? Is my identity being altered? Do I feel free? If the answer is no, distancing becomes not just a reaction but a requirement for his psychological health. In the end, his withdrawal is a quiet reminder of one defining truth about Sigma males. They cannot be molded, managed, or manipulated. The moment someone attempts to reshape who they are, the Sigma retreats to protect the most valuable thing he owns, his autonomy. Number 3, he reassesses the relationship objectively. When a Sigma male senses a shift in a relationship, he does not explode, confront dramatically, or react impulsively. Instead, he steps back into a mental space where emotion is quiet and observation takes the lead. Rather than responding through anger or insecurity, he evaluates the relationship the way a strategist evaluates a battlefield, with clarity, precision, and logic. This isn't coldness, it's emotional intelligence. Studies in psychology often show that men who rely on introspection and low reactivity decision-making tend to experience healthier long-term outcomes because they avoid the trap of emotional escalation. The Sigma is one of those men. He asks himself essential questions. Is this connection balanced? Does it encourage growth? Is there mutual respect, or are there subtle attempts to influence, guilt trip, or reshape him into something more convenient? These questions are not asked in paranoia, but in self-awareness. He understands patterns, and he pays attention to tone, timing, consistency, and energy. He notices when someone's affection becomes conditional, when boundaries are crossed, or when manipulation shows up in soft forms like silent treatment, passive pressure, or emotional dependency, because he doesn't force relationships to work. He allows the truth to reveal itself. If the dynamic is healthy, he invests. If it is draining, he disconnects quietly. Many relationships dissolve at this stage, not through chaos or shouting, but through clarity. The Sigma does not sabotage anything. He simply chooses not to stay in environments where he must shrink to keep the peace. Research on attachment styles and emotional autonomy shows that individuals with secure independence are less likely to tolerate one-sided relationships. And this is exactly where the Sigma stands. He moves with inner certainty rather than fear of loss. People often misinterpret this as detachment, but it is actually maturity. The Sigma understands that staying in a relationship out of obligation or emotional pressure only breeds resentment. Instead, he respects the natural flow of human connection. If two people are aligned, the bond strengthens. If not, it fades. He is never threatened by endings because he knows endings create space for authenticity. When a Sigma walks away, it isn't revenge or punishment. It's a return to equilibrium. It's his quiet commitment to living a life guided by honesty, self-respect, and meaningful connection rather than emotional chaos or control. Number 4, he reinforces his boundaries calmly. If he chooses to stay connected, the Sigma sets boundaries with a firm but gentle consistency that often surprises people. He doesn't raise his voice, deliver long lectures, or rely on emotional pressure. Instead, he expresses his limits the way a skilled craftsman measures a line, calmly, precisely, and with intention. He simply states what he will not accept, then follows through without drama, disappointment, or negotiation. These boundaries are not impulsive reactions to stress or frustration. They are rooted in deeply held principles shaped by years of self-reflection, personal standards, and psychological clarity. Research in personality psychology often shows that individuals with high autonomy and internal motivation tend to rely on values rather than social approval when making decisions. This is exactly what makes the Sigma's boundaries so unshakable. They aren't created to punish others. They exist to protect his peace, his energy, and the life he has carefully built. When he says no, he means it. Not because he is stubborn, but because he understands that inconsistency invites disrespect. Humans are naturally conditioned by patterns. When someone's boundaries shift depending on mood, relationships become unstable. But a Sigma's steadiness sends a different message. This is a man who knows who he is, what he stands for, and what he will not tolerate. And that clarity in itself commands respect. This calm approach is also deeply disarming. People expect pushback, arguments, or attempts to negotiate. Instead, the Sigma's quiet firmness removes any psychological leverage. His refusal is so steady, so unrehearsed, and so free of emotional charge that the other person quickly realizes manipulating or persuading him is impossible. He is not controlled by approval, guilt, or pressure. He is guided by principles, often shaped by Stoic philosophy, which teaches that a man should control his internal world regardless of the chaos around him. This is why the Sigma's boundaries often feel different from the typical man's. They are not walls built out of fear, but gates built out of wisdom. And once he sets a standard, he lives by it, even when it's inconvenient. People eventually understand that testing him is pointless. He will walk away before he allows disrespect to take root. But if someone honors his boundaries, he becomes loyal, present, and deeply genuine. To him, boundaries aren't about keeping people out. They're about allowing the right people in. Number 5, he becomes even more independent. Attempts to control a Sigma male often trigger a quiet yet powerful shift inside him, one that works in direct opposition to what the controlling person intends. Instead of becoming compliant or influenced, he becomes more self-reliant, more anchored, and more inwardly fortified. This response is rooted in a very real psychological principle. Individuals with strong internal loci of control naturally resist external pressure because their sense of direction comes from within, not from outside forces. When someone tries to steer his decisions, dictate his behavior, or subtly influence his path, the Sigma male instinctively retreats deeper into his autonomy. He strengthens his routines as a way of reinforcing his identity, grounding himself in habits and disciplines that reflect who he truly is. His solitude becomes more intentional, not as a form of withdrawal, but as a recalibration space where he can hear his own thoughts clearly again. Modern psychology notes that people who value independence often need periods of isolation to restore cognitive clarity and emotional balance, making this response not only symbolic, but also biologically rooted in how the brain manages stress and autonomy. During these moments, he focuses intensely on personal growth, elevating himself rather than engaging in power struggles. It's here that the paradox reveals itself. Attempts to control him don't shrink him, they expand him. Instead of being pulled off course, he doubles down on his own direction with greater precision and purpose. This is partly due to what behavioral scientists call psychological reactance, a natural pushback that occurs when someone feels their freedom is being threatened. For the Sigma male, whose entire identity is built on independence, this effect is amplified. The more someone tries to mold him, the more he returns to his core values, goals, and long-term vision. He becomes sharper, more disciplined, and more focused on the life he wants to build. This dynamic shows up in everyday life as well. If someone tries to pressure him into changing his lifestyle, he becomes more dedicated to his routines. If someone tries to dominate him emotionally, he invests more deeply in inner peace and emotional intelligence. If someone tries to influence his decisions, he becomes more analytical and self-directed. Over time, these repeated attempts to control him shape him, but in the opposite direction intended. He becomes wiser, calmer, and harder to manipulate. The Sigma male does not rebel loudly, nor does he engage in unnecessary conflict. His quiet resistance is far more effective. He simply grows in the direction that belongs to him and him alone. Number 6, he walks away without warning. When someone persistently tries to control or limit a Sigma male's freedom, something subtle but powerful happens inside him. He does not fight, shout, or argue because he understands, consciously or instinctively, that engagement feeds the conflict. Psychologists describe this as an avoidant, dismissive response, common among highly independent personalities who value autonomy above social approval. Instead of reacting emotionally, the Sigma quietly steps back, observing the situation like a strategist rather than a participant. He listens, he evaluates, and he notices patterns of manipulation, boundary crossing, or attempts to impose expectations on his life. And when he concludes that this dynamic threatens his inner peace or personal identity, he leaves, not out of coldness or cruelty, but out of self-preservation and psychological integrity. His exit is never dramatic. There is no slammed door, no public confrontation, and no emotional monologue meant to teach someone a lesson. He simply stops showing up. Conversations fade, presence becomes sparse, and eventually his absence settles into place as the unspoken truth. This behavior is backed by the concept of silent withdrawal, a technique recognized in behavioral psychology, where individuals remove themselves from situations that compromise their values rather than engaging in conflict they see as pointless. For Sigmas, the departure itself is the final message. It says more than anger ever could. It communicates boundaries, self-respect, and the refusal to be controlled. People who once tried to confine him are left confused, replaying interactions and wondering how they lost access to someone who never demanded anything but mutual respect. And this is the part most never understand. The Sigma's vanishing act is not punishment. It is clarity. It is the natural consequence of trying to control a man whose entire identity is rooted in self-direction. When a Sigma male walks away, he teaches a profound lesson without uttering a single word. His freedom is not negotiable, and anyone who tries to take it will one day learn the weight of his absence.